Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh, yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning. What is going on with my camera? What is going on? Wait, hang on. We appear to have a problem. Oh. Camera not active. There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. Yes. Now, welcome to the morning grind. Camera now functional. I hope everybody is having a wonderful morning. I have been up and at 'em this morning. I was out all yesterday. Yesterday, didn't have the grind yesterday morning. It's a hard turnaround. It's a really hard turnaround to do one of the really late table talk shows. Doug and I talked after the show, so I was up even later. Then I was doing some things. So, going to sleep at 1 or 2 in the morning or later, and then trying to do the morning grind in the morning is a bit rough. Not my preferred way of doing things. So needed sleep yesterday. Then I went out. There was tons of stuff to do. So I was out running errands all yesterday, and then also including getting a haircut. I needed a haircut badly. Hey, Vincent. Vincent says the cultist newcomer. One kind of sounds like the Lemmy Smash Crow. Well, welcome, Vincent. Welcome. So we got Brett is here. Brett says, "Oh, building things is one of my passions." Yeah, as I've been digging through my catalog of about 1,000 YouTube videos, it occurred to me that one of the things that I had that some people probably had not seen is I've got a video about how I made this wall behind me, and then also how I made my gaming room and turned it into a dungeon. Because when I bought this house, well, and so I figured we'd show that, and I've got a bunch of other footage about how I renovated this house, because I renovated this house with the purpose of it being a gaming and streaming house. So I've got some video on creating this back wall for the board gaming shelves, and then turning an extra bedroom into a gaming dungeon. And then there's a lot of raw footage for some other parts of this house that have not been edited yet, and I probably should do that, because I mean, this was a big project. And it was a fun project. Brett's here. James is here. Good morning. Good morning, Mike. The Grinders. Yeah, I like that. Good morning, Sable. The hair looks fantastic. Yes, I'm back. I was looking wild and woolly. Oh, Sable says I watched that video about building the wall. That was way back when I first found the grind. Okay, so at least one person has seen it. Robert. Hey, Robert. Oh, Robert's reporting take all and drop all via inventory, fully functional, making super progress. Excellent. Good morning, Drew. Good morning. So I'm firing. So I feel like I'm firing on all thrusters again today, and I'm really excited about the next 6 months. I think there's going to be a lot of project. There's going to be a lot of progress made. Robert was just talking about progress. There's a lot of progress I think is going to be made in the next 6 months, and a lot of projects that are going to be coming out. So I'm very excited about hitting the ground running and operating on all thrusters over the next 6 months. This is going to be a very important 6 months. The next 6 months can be very important for so much. Did anybody see Ahsoka? I have not yet. The Ahsoka episode 4. Has anybody been watching that one? Doug reports that it's good. He texted me and he said that he gave the first 2 episodes a 3 out of 10 each. Each one had a 3 out of 10. He moved episode 3 to 6 out of 10, but he said episode 4 was a 8 out of 10. So I haven't read more than that, but he told me that he was going to watch it and he would text me to see if he thought it was any good. And so he did text me, and he was giving an 8 out of 10 to Ahsoka episode 4. So maybe they just needed to build. Maybe it started slow, but maybe they found their footing and things are going well. It seems like Retro Nerd Girl and was saying that she liked episode 4. So I guess I'm going to have to watch that tonight. I may late tonight try to watch episode 4 and see what I think. And I don't know if we need to have a discussion about it or not, but just wondering what you guys thought. So, but that's the word through the grapevine. So if you're into it, or you like Doug's analysis, or your thoughts tend to follow what Doug says, he's giving an 8 out of 10. Okay, let's see. So that's going on at the moment. I don't have streams coming up this weekend right now. We need to do a members only stream, but right now I don't have anything planned for this weekend. I am thinking that the next major thing I need to do for Dinner on a Board Game is do a pilot for role-playing games. All right. So, so let's take a look at this. I bought this house several years ago now. It's just an old country house, cinder block house. That cinder block house, even my internal walls were cinder block. But I needed a place to be able to have people over so that we could work, so that we could shoot. We could play board games. We could shoot. I wanted to be able to hook up cameras throughout the house so that I could stream. It seems like most of my streaming now is done sitting right here at this desk. But the original idea was that I needed to be able to mount cameras up around the house in order to shoot different shows and stream, which I was able to do, which definitely also seems like something that my mom would never have let me do. You know, I've got camera mounts up in the kitchen. I've got camera mounts attached to the ceiling in the gaming room. And I can just see that, like, all right, Mom, I need to mount this thing on the ceiling, this camera mount. Can I do it? No, and Mom's like, no, you are not drilling holes in my ceiling to mount a camera up in the kitchen. No, come on, Mom. It'll be really cool. It'll be really cool. And then Mom's like, well, I guess we just won't be cool then. But that's a great advantage of owning your own house, that, hey, if I want to turn a bedroom into a dungeon or install camera mounts for streaming, well, hey, there's no one to say no. I just go in there and install camera mounts for streaming or whatever I want. So I was trying to turn this. Now, that hasn't worked out as well as I'd wanted to. They're turning it into a place. We did a lot of work here for streaming. We did a lot of work here several years ago, but we didn't quite get off the ground like I wanted to. And plus, I have the difficulty that I am out in the country. And so a lot of people have to come to me. So this place is a little bit difficult to work at because it requires people coming to my house. And it's kind of a long drive. Drew says no kink shaming on a dungeon bedroom. It could completely be used for that. If that's what you're into, you could totally take the dungeon in there and turn it into something else. It's not just for playing board games. So as it turns out, it's been much easier to do things like the dinner and a board game in a new format when we're all streaming from our own houses and things like that. So that was a little bit of a shame, but nonetheless, I still have a lot of cleaning to do. I got to clean up around here, but it's fun living in the house. I designed the house to be, my aesthetic, the kinds of things that I wanted. And this was the place where I was supposed to be able to live in order to finish my scripts. So that's kind of the goal of the house. Hey, good morning, Ryan. It has been a while. Good morning. It's good to see you. Okay, so let's take a look at the video where I built this back wall right over here. I've got another video on this wall, because this wall back here was actually a test. If you see down here, I was experimenting with trying to do some faux brick, and I saw people who were who had been able to successfully replicate the look of like dungeon block or castle block or something like that with this was some type of spackling. I forget what it was exactly, but it was some type of compound that ended up being smeared on the wall and then painted. But I didn't really like the way that came out. So this wall back here was in general a test, because I wanted the contrast between the plaster look of the top part of the wall, and then I wanted stone part of the bottom wall. And so I used this wall as a test, and I didn't really like how those blocks came out back there. And so I completely changed it up when I was doing the living room, which I was turning into a tavern, because I wanted the stone look with the plaster covered wall look as well, plaster on top of stone. So I used a new technique, a better technique in the living room. But so this wall was mainly my test wall. And you can see up here in this corner, I found this was also a test because I wanted to look like the plaster was peeling off up there in the corner. And so I had all of this, I had this wallpaper that looked like, it's not focusing because it wants to focus on my face. I had this wallpaper that looked like wood. And so I was putting the wallpaper on there. You can see some of it over here as well behind the buckler. And then smearing the plaster over it so it looks like you could see through the plaster. I ended up giving up on that. In the living room, there's no holes in the plaster. See, that would be inspiration for me to also get this place completely cleaned up, because I would like to be able to do a tour of it. I need to do a tour of the house. everything is basically, the interior of the house is basically completely renovated. Now, I am going to fix, but that would give me a reason to make sure that this house gets completely cleaned up again. I've never really recovered from last year. There's still areas of the house that are a mess. It's a small house, but I really like to do it like a tour video of the gaming house and what I built in here. Seems like it would be a great idea. I want to be able to do that, but then also like I've got a lot of raw footage to be edited about how I did all the house, how I built all the house. The ceiling up here, my ceiling, I made my ceiling in here in my office out of pallet wood. So I've got to fix some stuff to get some better insulation here in the office. But my ceiling, that is all pallet wood up here on the ceiling. So I cleaned, cut, and stained all of the pallet wood. And my original thought was to do this throughout the entire house. I thought that would be a good look because it also raises the height of the ceiling. The ceilings in this house were extra low. They're low anyway, but they were extra low because actually they had like 2 layers of ceiling in the house and a drop ceiling. Somebody, like the original ceiling in the house was in terrible repair. And it looks like somebody knew that. And so they came through and they just put a drop ceiling in. So I had to tear all the drop ceilings out. That got me another 6 inches worth of headspace, which was great. But then that, as you can see, I actually have the paneling up there. You can see the rafters. So that gives me extra headspace here in the office because the wood pallet planks are actually above, like halfway up the rafters. So that gives me some additional space. That, however, also took a long time. I was scavenging pallets from all over the place, bringing in pallets, cutting them up, cleaning them. That took a long time. So I didn't do that through any other house, any other room in the house other than the office. So that gives the office a unique kind of ceiling look, although I've got to do some more ceiling on it in order to get it better insulated, especially for the winter here. I want to make sure I do that. In the spring and summer, it's not, spring and fall, it's not so bad. But even in the winter, I don't want to heat to be leaking up into the attic. So I've got to do that. Well, I just, well, that's what I was looking for, Ryan. It looks like a cabin or a tavern feel. I was going for kind of a tavern look. That's why I want the medieval kind of tavern look, which is why I wanted the plaster walls and things. And I wanted to carry that throughout a lot of the rest of the house. Well, I bought this house. I bought the house as is, inexpensive. And when I bought the house, it had everything. I bought everything necessary to be a grandmother. I bought this house from some children who I'm going to do from the children. Their mother had died. This is where their mother was living. So she lived in the house for a long time, passed away. And then the children just wanted to sell it. And so like all of her stuff was in this house. It was, I bought everything, like I said, everything necessary to be a country grandmother. I had it all in the house. Even her clothes were still in the dryer. So I had to get everything, all of the grandmother out of here. I had to do anti-grandmother renovations in order to bring this in. Blown in insulation, yeah. So that's what I'm going to do throughout the entire house. Yeah, that's going to be something that comes up later because the interior of the house is basically finished. But I still need to do some work with insulation in the ceiling, and I need to put in like some kind of central and air. And the exterior of the house still looks horrible. Looks horrible. So I still have to fix that. So exterior of the house has still got to be something that is going to eventually get fixed. But that'll be a whole nother project. All right. So this wall right back here. So this wall over here. This is making something cool for the office. The walls in my office, I needed a set of shelves to keep my books and board games on, and I wanted a set of built-in shelves, but I also wanted it to have a really great theme and have an atmosphere that would help inspire me as I wrote here in the office and was working. So I wanted to have the candles and then also fog effects, and the candles and the fog effects are controlled by remote, so I can be at my office desk and turn them on and off. The top portion there I'm particularly proud of because it's made of reclaimed wood that I got from an old roof. It's a beautiful look. Let's jump in and I will show you how I made it. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take this wall in the office here and I want to build in shelves to hold my board games, my role-playing books, my fiction books, and everything else here in the office. So I've got all the wood to go up here, but I've got to paint this wall because I found out that, well, I've got all this natural, great-looking reclaimed wood, but that it means that it's not going to sit flush up against each other when I put it up here on the wall. So what I've got to do is I've got to paint this wall black so that any kind of gaps, you just see black. Once the wall was painted black, it was time for board prep, and this is always a time-consuming step. I had to sand down all of these planks and then also stain them before being able to install them. I started building from the bottom up, so I started building the base of these shelves, and as you can see I used the existing baseboard in the room for the height of that base, and I nailed this into the floor. So nothing is easy, especially trying to build board game shelves into a concrete wall here. So what I'm doing is I've got this furring strip here, and I'm putting a hole into the furring strip, and then also drilling with a masonry bit, to make sure you're using a masonry bit, into this wall. And then I'm using these anchors right here. Here's one. That way I can put it through the furring strip, you can see here, and into the wall. It's got a nail that sticks out like that. And then I just use a hammer, and it goes in. Just like that. Kind of hard to hammer and use the camera at the same time. But there we go. So here I am in the corner of the board game shelves. As you can see, drilling out all these holes is a dusty process. And then basically you can see I'm building a little ledge because then I've got the boards. They're going to go in right on top of it like this that I was staining. And then of course there's going to have to be a piece over there to support it. But then I'm going to take the nail gun and I'm going to shoot nails down in here, and that's going to keep the next shelf up, and I'm just going to repeat this process all the way up to the top. Because I've got these shorter pieces of wood for the shelves, I want to make sure that they're well supported as I move across the wall. So I'm working with these pieces of wood right here, and of course all this wood is going to be stained so it matches the shelves, but I'm just doing my cutting right here because I want to be able to put the edge of this board on one of these pieces of wood that goes all the way down to the other piece of wood, and then also I want to take pieces of wood and do this, and then these will get nailed together. So this will be one piece right here, and that way I can take nails and I can drive them down here as well, and it should produce a really solid fixture over here on this side for this piece of wood, and I'll do the same kind of thing down at the bottom to make sure that it's attached to the bottom as well. And so I just continued to build the shelves up, and it was slow and dusty work. Look at all that dust. Be sure to wear a respirator while you're doing this. Here's what's going on in the office. I've been building these board game shelves. I'm not done over there, but I am all the way up to the main height over on this side, so I wanted to get a feel of the rest of the project. So I've been putting up these reclaimed wood panels. They're not attached yet, but I wanted to see how they look, and I think they're going to look good. This is old reclaimed wood from a friend of mine's roof, and so that's what's going to go from the shelves here all the way up to the reclaimed wood ceiling that I've been putting in all the way across this back wall. It's going to look really good. I can't wait to get it in. This is an older house, so the walls weren't necessarily plumb, so I had to be sure that my planks were straight up and down with a level as I was going across, and I was just using those anchors to put them in the wall as well, and so I like the look of that because it looks like they're large studs that are keeping them in the wall, which they are. Here's what I was talking about with the walls not being straight. I had this wedge-shaped piece at the end here, so I had to make a template out of some blue masking tape to cut the right shape piece out at the end of the wall. Another way you could have done this that I probably would do in the future if I did it again would be to sheetrock this entire wall first and then use that as a basis to build the shelves on top of. Now I'm starting to clean up, and it starts to look really nice once all that dust is out of here. This is also when I put the polyurethane on the lower shelves. I didn't have to do any type of board prep to the planks that are up there at the top, and that was very nice. I did wash them, but otherwise they are just how they came off the roof of that house, and they've got all those neat nail marks and all of this character to it. Looks great. Now it's time to start building the upper shelves. I looked at a few different existing shelving options, but I didn't find anything that I liked, and I even found that existing mounting hardware was more than I wanted to pay, so I made up these wooden mounting brackets, cut them to shape, sanded them, glued them together, clamped them, and then nailed them, and then stained them. By the way, stain before you glue. I ended up with some glue marks where the stain didn't adhere, but actually you don't really notice in the final product. So I've been staining these boards, so they're close to ready to go. So these are going to go up the wall like this. So the upper shelves are going to be recessed a bit, so they're not as deep as these lower shelves are down here. And then I've been making these shelf brackets here, and they're going to go up under here, 2 or 3 of them per shelf. So basically, I want to have these ready to go in order to just mount directly to the wall. So the next step is to take some polyurethane. I've got some semi-gloss polyurethane. I'm going to put that over the shelves, and also the brackets. I cut some spacers out of foam to help me space all the shelves correctly and also help hold them while I attach them to the wall. Then the next step was to cut out these wooden braces for the shelves, so they got cut, sanded, and then stained, and then installed. I got these 3 shelves finished, and I think they look great. I especially like the brace that I put on them. I think that really adds to the look. Plus, it makes them very, very sturdy. And these shelves are anchored into the concrete wall back here. Moving down here, I've also started hanging up some art. This piece here is called The Bringer of War. It's by Bernard Lee. I hung out with him and actually stayed in a house with him at DragonCon a couple of years ago. Or was that last year? I can't remember. And I really loved this piece, and so I got it from him. This is piece a limited edition print 11 of 50. And then going down the wall even further, I have the other 3 shelves, let's see, here on the wall hung up as well, and those are anchored into the wall. Now down here, let me show you, I have put on a facing for the shelves. So I've got the raw wood, let's see, the raw wood that would be here, and of course I had the raw wood up here as well. But what I went and did was I went to the hardware store and I bought what they called premium pine, because I wanted something that had a really nice look. And so I bought the premium pine wood pieces, and then I stained it, and then I put polyurethane on it, and then I put that as a facing on the shelf. And I think that's a really important piece here to add as far as looks goes. I'm doing the same thing down here on these columns here. I've got the raw wood, but like this, for instance, is a piece of that premium pine, and it's going to be put up here as well. And I think it's going to make the whole shelf unit look a lot better. Now I've got these big gaps here to the side of the art, and they need candle sconces. I couldn't find the candle sconces that I had, so I decided to make some instead. I had leftover reclaimed wood, and so I decided to try to make some sconces out of that. So I cut these back boards, but it was important that the sconces were visually distinct from the wood on the wall. They're made of the same wood, so I had to do something. So I sanded them down, and then I put a stain on them in order to darken them. It was a light stain, but because of the interaction with the wood, it sent them dark, but not too dark. And then I put a polyurethane over them as well. So by the time they were sanded, the stain went on, and the polyurethane, they both matched that back wall, but also looked visually distinct and stood out. So here's what the unit looked like when assembled. But I decided to do a little bit more for them. I wanted a decoration, and so I themed each sconce according to one of the symbols in Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. I've got the brand of Cthulhu, the yellow sign, the elder sign, and the mark of the Necronomicon. And those are the enamel pins and also the D2 coins that are available through Infinite Black. And I just took some epoxy. I put them up on the candle sconces. It gives them a little bit of something extra and also something for the candle light to reflect off of and bounce off of. Now let's talk about the fog effects. I got this fog machine right here. I got it because it has a remote control, so I can sit at my office desk and I can operate the fog machine without having to get up. That's great. It also has these lights on it. I thought that would be good, but I found out the lights aren't capable of being independently controlled. When the unit is on, the lights are on, and I didn't really like that, so I used tape to cover up the lights. I wanted something cool to be emitting the fog, and so I happened to have this skull sitting around the workshop, so I decided to make the fog come out of it. And I hooked up a fog chiller because naturally the fog will want to rise, as you saw. So what you have to do is you have to cool the fog, and that way the chilled fog will sink like I want. In order to do that, I have this hose that attaches to the fog machine, and I'm running it through this tub here, which is going to be filled with ice. And I just stuffed as much of that hose as I possibly could, drilled out a hole in both sides of the tub, so the hose goes in one side, out the other, and then right into the skull. I sealed all those holes with silicone, and then you fill the tub with ice. I drilled out some holes in the skull, and then you just turn the fog machine on. The colder the fog is, the better the effect. I kind of found that the velocity that the fog machine is shooting fog out into the skull is a bit much. I kind of originally had in my mind a kind of slow drizzle of fog rolling out of the skull, but it comes out a bit faster than that. It's still okay. It gets a lot of fog out in the room and generates some atmosphere. But I think in the future I might work a little bit more with trying to come up with more rolling fog out of the skull. You can also use a bigger fog chiller to get colder fog, which makes it sink faster, but I got to put this up on a shelf, so I'm kind of limited as to the size of my fog chiller. But let me tell you, it still does look great. I love being in my office at night, turning on all of the candles, turning on the fog machine, and it really generates a cool atmosphere. I love the interplay between the candle light and the fog. So this is basically it. It has been a seriously fun build, and I do love the way that it works. I think it's going to provide a really great atmosphere in here in the office, and it's going to be a fantastic place for me to work. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it inspires you to go build something like this as well, and if it did, please give the video. So, yeah, there are several different things here. If I were to do that again, I did later in the house, most every wall got stripped and then sheetrocked. But I didn't know about doing that. I think I had thought about that when I started these walls. But also the rooms in this house aren't all that large. And so, you know, when you strip the wall and add the sheetrock, you are making the rooms smaller. And that probably wouldn't matter all that much. But if I were to do it again, I think I would definitely sheetrock that wall behind me and then do all of that on top of the sheetrock. Like all of that wall and all the wood and stuff like that, and all even the shelves are anchored into concrete blocks. So if anybody ever wants to buys the house later and wants to remove all of that, I mean, they're going to have a bunch of stuff that's anchored into concrete. It's not going to be easy to get to come off. But another thing that I would have done, or an advantage of putting the sheetrock over it, would be that I could run wiring through it, because I don't have any wiring in this back wall. That's why like all of my candles are battery powered. If I were to do it again and I did sheetrock it, that would allow me to run wires throughout the wall, and then I would have probably just had electric lamps or candles or sconces or whatever, so it looks like torches or something like that. I would have put that on the back wall and just put them with the wiring and had a light switch to them. So I don't have that. I don't have wiring in the wall, but oh well. So I just have to use battery powered stuff. I don't remember if there was plastic wrap furniture. Michael asked, was there plastic wrap furniture? There might have been in this house. Brett says, when and if you move to California, are you going to sell or rent? You could rent to another streamer. Actually, I hadn't thought about renting. I guess I could potentially rent the house. I wasn't going to. My plan was not to sell the house initially, because I was going to be moving out. Brianna sees LA being her final destination. I'm not sure if I want to live in LA permanently or not. I was just thinking about going out there for at least for a year to start with. And if I do that, if I moved out to California for a year, then I wouldn't sell the house. Now, who knows what happens after that year? But my thought was to not sell the house for the first year, because this could be a place to come back to. Old barns, bourbon barrels, anything really. Wood reclamation is fascinating, and the wood is usually gorgeous. I am going to have to put a new roof on the house. The house is going to need a new roof. I'm going to put a tin roof on it. But currently, right now, I bet there is a lot of great looking wood up on the ceiling of the house. The roof of the house. So when that happens, there's going to be a lot of great looking wood that comes off the ceiling of this house. This stuff, the reclaimed wood that I've got behind here, this back here, that was from a friend of mine's roof, Brian Colin. You've seen him on the channel. That was his roof, because he got a new roof put on his house, and he had this old You know, it's an old house, so all of that wood got torn off of the roof, and he's been using it himself for artistic projects and a bunch of different things himself. And he let me come by because there was just so much of it, and pick up enough to do to do this really cool wall behind me. But that's going to happen for me again too. By the time I take off the entire roof, there's going to, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't want to get rid of it, but where do you put it? How do you store it? What do you do with it? It may be something that can be sold, but I want to be careful of that. Mike says I need a tripod for some of those shots. Yeah, or a Steadicam. Yeah, I mean, it's always, I had a tripod for some of them, but earlier on, it's always, you know, shooting while you're trying to do a project like that, of course, adds to the time of the project because you've got to shoot all of the video, you know, as you're working. So sometimes it's really easy to just pick up the phone and record. Sometimes that's the easiest thing to do, and that's what gets it done, rather than trying to bring in a tripod, because I was just shooting it myself and stuff. It looks like a room from Clue, Robert says. Yeah, not too soon. Mike says, I left California for upstate NY. California is okay to visit. Need to be well away from LA or Frisco to live. Brett says, you will not want to stay in LA unless you're a real movie Hollywood starstruck junkie. Renting your current allows you to fairly easily move back should that be needed. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If it doesn't go well out there and I need to come back and I need to completely revise what I'm doing, then coming back here, having this as a fallback position would be nice. I don't know that this is my ultimate destination. I've learned so much by renovating this house. So I've got a house that I want to build eventually. Like later, the goal is to build a particular house that I've wanted for a while, but I'm not sure where I would ultimately put that. I wouldn't put it out in LA, but I don't know whether I will be here in Alabama or at the end of the rainbow or not. But learn so much by building everything about renovating all of this. So the only other room renovation video that I've got is where I was built out the dungeon. I stripped out the bedroom. So this bedroom on the other side of this wall here, it's a small room. It's small for gaming. It's got this huge table in it. Which actually the gaming table, the build of the gaming table is also on the channel. But I made a home for the gaming table as this dungeon room, which I expected would be the dinner and a board game set. And it was for one season, 10 episodes, and then the second season pilot. And we never got to film the second season here. But I designed the kitchen for shooting, so that way you can shoot into the kitchen, across the bar. I had to take out a wall. I had to take out this concrete block wall. It was between the kitchen and the living room. Took that out in order to make a place that works very well. There's plenty of room in the living room for equipment and lights. When Brennan is setting up the cameras go. You shoot right across the bar into the kitchen. That works extremely well. So we may shoot some more kitchen scenes for dinner and a board game here. I might do that soon too. Where I've got a couple of things that I want to shoot. I need to just take a day and shoot dinner and a board game cooking sequences. And then that way I'll have them so that even though we're playing online and live, I'll be able to add in, like I'm doing with these videos here, add in the live. You know, Lynn says, when can we look forward to the debut of Cooking with Cthulhu? Now, I'll tell you, I don't know about Cooking with Cthulhu, but we had thought that if there was going to be like a spin-off show of the cultists, a fun spin-off show would be Cooking with Shay and Acantha. I think it would be fun because we established, by the way, that my house, you see my house, my living room in the Cultist season 2, because that's where Acantha is. So we established that my house is Acantha and Shay's cottage. Acantha and Shay live together; they're roommates. And so you saw Acantha in season 2 sitting in my living room. So that's what the living room looks like. Where she's in there brewing potions. And then we redressed the dungeon gaming room for Shay's room. We thought it made sense for Shay to have a dungeon and to be living in a dungeon. So we redressed this room back here, and that became Shay's dungeon. which those sets will be used again. My house will be used again in season 3 if we ever get to do that. Where was I going with that? So we use that. Oh yeah, but then wouldn't it be funny? I think that if Shay and Acantha had a cooking show, so Shay and Acantha are in the kitchen because we've established this as their house, so you would see that again, and then the banter and back and forth between Shay and Acantha, like cooking something and talking about potions and spell casting and things like that. I think that would be fun. Hey, BGD. Is Dinner a Board Game Online coming again soon? After one episode, what changes would you make for the next one, if any? Well, soon, yeah. I got it. I think I want to try just a role-playing one. Just a role-playing one. I've got some things that I would change on my side that basically just have to do with the technical side of running it, because I think it went very well. So, but there are some things about the way I had the game actually organized from a technical perspective online that's got to be changed. That'll just make that easier. But I think doing just an RPG, and then after that, I'm going to put out a casting call for the show, because in order for Dinner and a Board Game to work, we've really got to have a great crew and cast of people who can meet regularly to get on some kind of schedule. So I'm not sure if ultimately it'll be Sundays or not, but I need to do one more practice run. But this time, let's just do an RPG. And I don't want to invite a special guest dungeon master for that yet, because I need to run through it once. So I need to run through it as a dungeon master and get some people who are volunteered to be there and do like an RPG. Then cast the show and schedule it weekly. Or twice a week would be nice, but at least weekly. It needs to be weekly. I kind of thought about it being a Friday night show. When I was doing it solo, it was a Friday night show. So Friday might be tough for people. But if it's actually cast, if it's recast, so you can have some of the same people. But if we just do a casting call, because I want to do more than just Hero Quest 2. And like, for instance, One Night Werewolf can have up to 10 people. It'll be more fun if they're, at least 5 or 6 people or 7 people. So different games will require different numbers of people. So that'll be a production, but it seems to be gathering traction on the new channel. So I'm a big fan of the way that the new channels, like I said, it's a little bit of a headache in the short term, but in the medium and long term, the new channels are going to be great. All right, so let's go into an old bedroom and how I tore this thing out to become the gaming den. Build a tabletop gaming room in my house with castle-like dungeon walls. To do that, I'm going to transform this old bedroom in the house all the way from this to this. It was a dirty and involved project, but I love the look. Let's jump in and see how it happened. So a major task for today has been to get all the junk out of this room so I can continue with home renovation. This is going to become the gaming den. It's a bit of a small room, but I think it's going to work. There's a lot that's got to be done, though. It's got this terrible drop ceiling in it, so that's going to have to be gotten rid of. The floor is going to have to be replaced. I believe that window is going, so we can have shelves and things like that over there. Also, in order to open up the space, I've got a sliding window, or sliding door rather. I'm going to cut out a hole here and then put the door in to eventually go out to a party deck. There's also this little closet right here. I think that's going to go. Put in something else for storage. I don't like the closets in this house. Do something else right there. But basically, because there's no plumbing and I'm not going to be changing around any of the wiring here, I'm hoping that this project is going to go quickly. So let's get into the demo of this room. As with all the ceilings in this house, the ceiling was low. A significant reason for that was because someone had come in and put this hanging ceiling about 6 or 8 inches below the existing ceiling. All of that had to come out. Another problem was that the ceiling right above the hanging ceiling was not in great shape at all. That's probably why they put in the drop ceiling, but rather than actually fix the problems, of course, the drop ceiling just covered it over. So the original ceiling came down as well. There was no insulation above, just a lot of dirt, debris, and dust. It all came down, and it was dirty, and it was messy. That's the dinky little closet that I hate in the corner. It's small and has a terrible door. It had to come out. I'll replace it with something else. You can also see the pile of garbage that had to be hauled away in a trailer because of the demolition on this project. So much garbage has come out of this house. Now it's time to get this window out of here. It's going to have to go in order to get the theme of this room right. But here, beneath the window, we can also notice there is no insulation in these walls. That's a problem that's going to have to be fixed. It was also time to cut a hole in the back wall to accommodate the new sliding glass door. This new glass door is going to make up for the loss of the other window and let in a lot of light into the gaming room when you want it. I'll put in a blackout curtain when you don't. This door will also give direct access to the deck that I want to put out there later. This is also where I started to get help with this project, as I was not comfortable with cutting out a hole in my house that could also be properly framed for the door installation, and have it all come out nice and neat and right. And it was at this point that I decided that since I was going to all of this trouble now, the room needed to be insulated. I don't ever want to have to open up all these walls again, especially once I get the faux dungeon stone put on. So since this project was being done now, it might as well be done right. So, more demo. Time to rip out all of that existing sheetrock so we can get the insulation in the walls. Rolls of insulation go in, and that's going to make a world of difference in that room, especially once the ceiling is also insulated. Once the new sheetrock goes on, it really starts to look like a new room, and there you can see the sliding glass door installed. Next, it was time to get the ceiling up. First some plastic went up on the rafters, then the ceiling planks with the wood look started going in. I love the look of these ceiling planks. They are so much easier than the pallet wood that I use to make the ceiling in my office. Next up, paneling. Putting in the sheetrock first here really makes all of the difference. I used to hate paneling because I thought it made such a weak wall, but the secret here is to put up the sheetrock first and then put up the paneling over the sheetrock. That makes a really solid paneled wall. Later I'm going to do something else with that back wall, but when I was originally designing this room, I didn't think that back wall was going to be seen as much on camera as it ended up being. But for now, that gets paneled. After the paneling went in, it was time to start bringing in the flooring. The same dark wood flooring planks were used here that run throughout all of the house. Trim for the room was simple and fits with the look of the rest of the house. It's just simple wood stained dark. Time to get out the rock panels. These are the faux panels from Baron Designs. They have a variety of styles and looks. I thought this design looked like classic dungeon walls, and so that's what I've got. These are hard foam panels, and they go in really easily. I added a small speakeasy to the door. I thought that was a nice touch. It's decorative, and also that way whoever's inside can control access to the gaming room. The door was stained to match the doors in the rest of the house. You can see the blackout curtain has been hung, so you have a lot of control over how much light is in the room. You can make it very bright and cheery, or you can go dark for dark gaming business. This also allows me to add in mood lighting with candles and lamps or whatever else I want, even when it's during the day, and that's really nice. That way, even when my younger nephews come over during the day, the curtain can be shut, and they can still get the full effect of the gaming room. I brought in the furniture, which of course includes the gaming table as its centerpiece. The gaming table was made from a standard kitchen table. I just built the frame around it, and it works great. I've got another video on the channel specifically about how I built that. The room stayed like this for a long while. This was its state when we shot all of the first season of Dinner and a Board Game. A lot of great gaming has been done in here. We also had a party for the cast and crew of the cultists to play board games. Especially when the fog machine was going, this gaming room did its job. Before we did the new pilot for Season 2, I wanted to upgrade the room by installing new rock wall panels on the back wall. It ended up being seen a lot in the show because of the size and shape of the room, so putting in more stone panels on that wall really helped out the look. But I also needed some additional shelf space for storing terrain and other items needed for gaming. So before the stone panels went up, I put in 2 shelves across the top of the wall, and then put in the stone panels beneath it. So that's basically it. That's how I made my dungeon-like gaming room. There's more on the channel about how I renovated. So that's my gaming room. Brett asks, do I have a mini house on the property? I used to. You're talking about the tiny house? Yeah, I was building. My life living situation has gone in stages. So let me see. Yeah, you can see it right back there. That's on a trailer. Yeah, you can see. Yeah, you can see it over there with the red roof. That was I hand shingled that that was custom cut shingles. I did custom cut cedar shingles on that roof. But I ended up selling that because I was living in that. I was living in a tiny house, but the tiny house never got completely finished. I was living in the tiny house, not complete. Because after I left the university, I got the tiny house to live in. And the idea was that I could potentially be mobile. I didn't need a giant house to live in. I needed just to be able to just a place to work. And I wanted to do a really nice house. So actually, I practiced all the stuff that I was doing as far as renovation on this house on that tiny house. So I didn't do the rough carpentry of that tiny house. All the rough carpentry was done. It was a custom made trailer. Somebody else made the trailer. This was made by Tumbleweed, the Tumbleweed Tiny House Company. The Tumbleweed Tiny House Company did all of the custom trailer and all of the rough carpentry. Then they brought it to me, and I turned it into that. And now, like I said, the interior was not finished. The interior was not finished, but I was living in it unfinished. And I did a lot of work. I ran Elder Dice. I ran Infinite Black and did Elder Dice out of that. When I was doing the first Elder Dice campaign, I did that living in that unfinished tiny house. There are different videos on that. And I was making videos a long time ago about the construction of that tiny house. But then I ran out of money. So that's why I was living in it unfinished. But then the opportunity came up later to buy this house. And so I just bought this house with cash. I just bought this house, and it needed a ton of work because it was the old grandmother house. And I knew what was going on. I was like, but I need to go ahead and get a house. So I decided I'm going to move out of the tiny house. So I bought this house, and I lived in it. I lived in this house in grandma style for a while. And then I went through and I demoed this entire house. I will never do that again. I'll never demo a house while I'm trying to live in it. I mean, I didn't really have a choice. I mean, where else was I going to go and live? But I was destroying this house. There was a long time in this house that I had no ceiling in it. That just stuff was torn out everywhere, dusty, everything. All of my stuff was in bags. I just had like a tiny area of the office where I had my laptop up, where I could run more Elder Dice. As we were running more Elder Dice Kickstarter campaigns, I was living basically in a completely demoed house, a completely destroyed house. And then I finally got this house under control on the interior and finished all of the interior of this house. And then I decided finishing the tiny house project would have been fun, but it was too much time. I was like, okay, I guess actually my life has moved past the season of the tiny house now, because I have this is still a small house. It's not a tiny house. This is still a small house, but I've still got so much work to do on the exterior of this house in order to get it right, that I was like, you know what? I guess I will never go back to the tiny house. And it's not really, so I decided to sell it. So last year I sold the tiny house. So somebody else has taken it and is finishing it to live in. So I'm perfectly happy about that, because the tiny house was kind of a work of art. But this house is now a work of art. So my work of art is now in this house. And like I said, I've still got to finish the exterior. It'll be a nice looking house once I finish the exterior too. But then if I move again, not talking about like renting in California for a little bit, like we'll just, like Brianna and I will get an apartment if we do that. But when I move again to whatever my final destination is going to be, it'll be I'll build a house that I want to do. James says, was I a carpenter in a former life? No, I had to learn everything. I like making things. So I just figured it out. I just had to figure out how to make it. Yeah, Brett says, interesting how part of the house was cinder block and the other part was standard wood. Yeah, because it was obviously an expansion or an extension of the house, because there's a cinder block main core part of the house, what I think it was, which is basically only 4 rooms. It looks like the original house was only 4 rooms that were all the same size. That's all cinder block. And then there was a porch on the back. But so that's I think that's what the original house was. But then it looks like the back porch got turned into more house at some point. So then the house was extended by turning what was the back porch. Very classic kind of country thing to do, right? To like close in the back porch. And so the closing in of the back porch, which put in another room and the bathroom, was the wood extension. So that came later. What was the rough cost for all that faux stone and the brick wall? I don't know. Expensive. It isn't cheap. It wasn't cheap. I wanted it for the set of the show. I mean, because I was making that for the set of Dinner and a Board Game. But yeah, not cheap. Those panels, they look fantastic, but they are expensive. Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I over demo because I just tore I tore the whole thing apart. Demo is easy. The putting it back together is hard. Brett says tiny house won't get the appreciation a standard home on land will get. Good call. Yeah. I mean, I did hate to see it go because there was so much of me in that, but it was just another big project that was sitting there unfinished, and other people would be able to enjoy it, and so I sold it. And it also wasn't very portable. I mean, you can go, but I had nightmares about being in the truck hauling that and having it flip over or turn or something like that. So if I were to do it again, or if I wanted something very mobile and small, I would get something that was much smaller than that tiny house. Because I do like the idea. I want to be able to return eventually to living or to traveling and being more mobile than I am now. I haven't been able to travel in many years, and I like being able to travel. So if I were to do it again, having something like, something mobile would be nice. But what I would do is it would be much smaller, and much easier to move around. That thing is heavy. That tiny house, it was heavy, and it wasn't even finished on the interior, but it was heavy. So it's not like it's really easy to just haul around. It's not a casual thing to just, I think I'll go out for a drive with my tiny house. It was not. James says, I really like making things too. A long time ago, I would help a friend's father do home renovation. I learned so much from him: carpentry, painting, electrical, flooring, roofing. I loved it. I've got a workshop in the backyard. We had the workshop because that's where I had people over. Also, Megan and Kenna and Carol were over here making stuff, because when we were doing Dinner and Board Game live, we were doing the custom 3D boards and all of that. And I loved that. And I love being out in the workshop making things. Sometimes here I will paint, but I have not really been out to the workshop to make things in a long time. Making armor, I don't have time to just go out and make a helmet right now. But I also love, one day I'm going to get back to doing some armor. Like the helmet here. I really want to do a 14th century suit of armor. And I was making the workshop is set up in the backyard so that I can have the interior and exterior workshop, and I can put stuff like armoring stuff out on the porch of the workshop. But it's just not something I've been able to do. But man, I really would love to be able to spend some more time like just making stuff in the workshop. And a complete 14th century suit of armor would be really nice. James says, hi, I did some blacksmithing too. Mostly tools though. No armor or weapons. Drew says that armor looks sick, Keith. Oh, well, thank you. This one is based on this helmet is an Ostrogothic helmet that's based on a helmet that's in the Ravenna Museum in Italy. And I actually got to see the actual helmet in Ravenna in Italy when I was there. So this is a replica of that helm. And there's this helm, it's silver and it's gold, actually, on the authentic one. And there are helmets that are similar. They're not all exactly the same, but they're similar, and they're found throughout Europe. And so one potential theory. Now this is built for the SCA, so there's no face plate on the original. This is built for SCA combat. But one theory is that this series of helmets may have all come out of the same workshop and been like royal gifts or gifts. That's why you find these very similar looking helms have been found in several different places through Europe, and none of them are identical, but they all are pretty similar. And so one hypothesis is that maybe they were made in the same workshop and then were given as gifts throughout Europe or something like that. So maybe that was the case. So I love this helmet. I built this with help. This was basically one of the projects where I was learning armoring, and so I was working with his name is Chris Nichols, And so I would go over to his workshop and learn armoring techniques and making stuff. And so I didn't do this on my own. This is not like it's a 100% complete Heath helmet. It's one that I was learning with. I've got one that I would love to finish is the one that I was making myself as a replica of the St. Wenceslas helm in Prague. That's a really cool helmet, and I have it in pieces in the workshop. I really just need to finish it. That would be one to do, because the St. Wenceslas helm, it's got this really weird engraving on the nasal. It's got kind of a Christian motif that looks like a crucified Jesus, like Jesus on the cross. And of course, it's traditionally the helm of St. Wenceslas. So of course you have this, Christian motif, but instead of a head, it's got a giant eyeball, like the eye of Sauron. So it's like a crucified guy, maybe crucified, but it's laid out but with it like the eye of Sauron for head. So it's also this kind of Christian, but also kind of Christian, kind of pagan, also kind of hybrid, and really neat. Thank you. Mike says, nice looking helm. Well, I've tried. I feel like I've gotten stuck a bit, so we will see. If I could get to travel again, that'd be great. The Coppergate. Oh, Mike's talking about the Coppergate has a similar look. When I've done, I didn't do, but we did I helped work on it, a replica of the Coppergate helm. Coppergate has a real Coppergate helmet. Coppergate is interesting. I had a friend who wore a replica of this. Now that one was done by Chris. Let's see. Here's what it looks like if you are not familiar with the Coppergate. The Coppergate is a really interesting find because it was found basically intact, like that right there. So that is an 8th century Anglo-Saxon helmet found in York, England, found in 1982. And like at the bottom, during excavations of the Jorvik Viking Center at the bottom of the pit, there's thought to have once been a well. Someone like threw it down a well or something like that. And so that is the Coppergate helmet. And I've seen that one. Chris did that one in replica as well. And he did a fantastic job of Coppergate. But you often see the Coppergate helm or other helmets of that type that are often used as inspiration, especially for something like Rohan. I see that with Rohan, and it's because they are such iconic helmets. But you've got to change it up, because I've seen there was some company, it may have been some of the art from when Cubicle 7 had the One Ring. They've got like riders of Rohan who are clearly wearing a Coppergate helmet. And then there's also the Sutton Hoo helmet. Chris Nichols also did the Sutton Hoo helmet. He did an amazing Sutton Hoo helmet. But the replica of the Sutton Hoo. Let's see, because it's got that mask. Come on, give me an image. So that is the Sutton Hoo helmet right there, the way it was found. And then this is not Chris's replica, but that's a replica of what the Sutton Hoo helmet, because it's got all this really cool repoussé on it and things like that. And I've seen riders of Rohan who are wearing that exact same helmet. And I go, that looks cool, except for I realize it doesn't look cool for Rohan, because I instantly recognize it as a actual Earth historical helmet. That looks like a really nice replica of the Sutton Hoo helmet. No. As well. It's kind of got a different kind of eye shape. What metals were used? Oh, so this is this is brass. this is brass right here. And actually, this brass came off of an elevator door. So this was sheets of an old elevator door. And when you polish it up, it's not polished right now, but if you polish it up, this comes off as a really amazing looking gold. So this is stainless steel. It's a stainless steel helmet. No, wait, no. No, it's not. This is not stainless steel because Chris refused to use stainless steel in his armoring because it's not an authentic metal, right, for medieval armor. So stainless steel was off the table. So this is mild steel here for this, and then we've got this brass from these old elevators here, and this is laminated here. So we've got the steel on the inside of these cheek plates, and then it's laminated with much thinner brass on the sides here. This is one solid. It's made to look like a Spangenhelm construction. You know, it looks like it's got all the different lobes around here, but actually, being that this was built for SCA combat, this is the Spangen parts of this. This is not an actual Spangenhelm construction. This is a solid piece up here. That's the iconic top part of the top here, and then it's just got the overlay of the brass, so it looks like it's got the lobes in it. So it's structurally integrity. It's one piece because these are brass rivets that are going here, so that's not structure. It's not structural integrity. And then this does have. There's flex in the back plate right here. Of course, there was no back plate back here on the original, but the back plate's here for SCA combat, and then just covered with riveted mail, and the back plate flexes. Let's see. Brett says that's so cool. I wish I could get back to doing things like that. Maybe if other things take off one day, I can. Let's see. You asked about the tiny house. See, those are things that look! I've got the exterior, completed exterior. Wait. So I'll show you.
Hello and welcome to.
Let's see. Yeah, no, not that one.
I'm looking forward to seeing.
I'll show it to you. Oh, here it is. Here it is. So before and after the exterior. Here, I'll show you this just because, hey, why not? It's fun. Let's see. That and this. Oh, not that. While we're just chatting and having a good time today. Just a second. Tiny house arrives. Okay. So this is what it looked like when I got it. Oh, what does SCA stand for? Brett says, yes, Society for Creative Anachronisms. That's what it is. So this is what it looks like when it got to me.
All right, so the 24-foot Cypress tiny house from Tumbleweed just arrived just about an hour ago. We've got it in here, and we opened it up so you can see inside. I'm going to take you for a little tour of what arrived here. You can see I already had the windows installed, and I went with the dormers up in the loft. Really make a big difference. Let's go around here to the front or the back, depending on what you consider the front and back of the house. This is obviously where you tow it from. Now, they had both of these windows here, because this is what would be exposed when it's going down the road. They had both of those covered up with planks, and I took those off. So see what it looks like here. So that's the towing side of the house. And then over here on this side, you can see there's the extra window over here because we've got the bump out and the little work nook, little bay area that I like so much. So let's go around to where the porch is. Here we are, and the front door. which it doesn't have a front door yet, but that's the front door area. And then this was also boarded up. You can see the board that was down here for travel purposes. So unscrewed that so we can get inside and take a look. And then here is the inside as it comes of the Cypress 24 barn raiser. So you can see, I guess, front door, bump out area, and then up there is the storage area. We've got the bump out, which is going to become my little office space. And then the great room area, which is mainly here. And you can see the sleeping loft up there, and you can see there's a lot of room up there when you add those dormers. And you can also see up there on the left that I do have the roof framed in to put a skylight up there. And then in here, underneath the loft, is where the kitchen and the bathroom is going to go. Bathroom over here on the left, kitchen over here on the right. Down here, this is the one-piece shower here, because you can't put the shower in once all the walls are on, because you can't bring that through the door. So I went ahead and bought the shower, and so when it arrived, the shower is sitting in here so you can stick it in when you're ready for it. Also, windows installed here. You can see these windows, very nice. They are the tempered glass windows, and also they roll out. I'm not going to roll them out. You can see the way they operate here, so you can pull them out. The hardware is sitting over there. It was delivered underneath the shower, so it's there. And then also here, screens. Here are all of the screens for the windows. I guess I do want to point out that some things in the barn raiser are finished, because you can see that the loft is an integral component of the house. So the loft comes installed, and you can see that these beams here are exposed because they're supposed to be exposed. They're actually part of the finished house. And then also this is the ceiling, which is exposed for the kitchen and the bathroom. So that's finished wood like it'll be. And then you can see, I want to go up into the loft. A little step ladder here. And so here is the flooring of the loft, and that'll stay pretty much like it is. So basically, that is the way that the barn raiser is delivered. We're looking forward to getting to work, turning it into, well, not only a tiny house, but a tiny home. So I'll see you in another video.
So that was how the tiny house arrived. The Sable Phoenix says, I think they even go up to Napoleonic. No, they don't do Napoleonic. Yeah, this SCA, you can do Renaissance. I forget exactly what the cutoff date is, but you can go Renaissance in the SCA. They don't do Napoleonic. They don't do Civil War reenactment or Revolutionary War or anything like that. So it goes up to the late medieval, early Renaissance. I forget what the year cutoff is. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But it's time consuming. It's time consuming. You know, I used to do a lot of SCA. You know, we'd travel, but you'd be traveling Friday and then, you know, be gone all weekend and travel back on. It's a lot of effort, because you got to also get ready for basically a camping trip. I mean, you could go to an event every weekend if you wanted to. When we were doing the Royal Entourage for the Kingdom down here, I wasn't gone every weekend, but you could have been. And it was a lot of fun. At 1600, so SCA covers roughly the end of the Roman Empire to 1600 AD. Although you can fudge, okay, exactly what you say here. We fudge a few years on the late end in order to have access to some music, but also fudging on the early end too, because there are people who do Roman stuff. There isn't really so much a beginning date as there is kind of a soft end date that you're talking about. Because I knew several people who did Roman things. So you can do that. So I'll show you what I turned the tiny house into from the exterior, and then we'll wrap this up just while we're on this subject. So this is what the tiny house ended up being. This is what you saw. So that's what it started with, and this is what it finished the exterior of my tiny house, and I'm very proud of it. So I just wanted to take a moment to give you a brief overview. This tiny house started off as just an unfinished shell. I got it as a tumbleweed barn raiser. So everything about the exterior was completely unfinished when they brought it to me. There's a video I did of exactly what it looked like when I got it, if you want to check that out. So what you're looking at here on the side are cedar shingles. Each one of those was hand dipped in stain and sealant and then hung individually on the house. And then what you're looking at down here is cedar bevel. I used the same stain. I wanted there to be a two-tone look to the house, and so that's how I accomplished it. I think it came out wonderfully. Let's take a look at the roof. That is a custom cedar roof. I individually hand cut every one of those cedar shingles and then hung them individually up there after painting. I love the way it looked. The roof is one of my favorite parts of this house. So coming around here, you will notice that the only thing not completed about the exterior is the front porch area, and that's because I don't have a front door yet. I decided that will be the very last thing that I make. This is because the interior of the house is still under construction, and I'm going to be moving things in and out, like equipment and furniture, and putting in the door will reduce the size of the opening, and I don't want that to be a problem during construction or for it to get damaged during construction. So I'll leave that to the very end. So here is the front of the house. I really think that it has a great look. I love the little bump out area, and I love the little decorative triangle that's up there on the roof. I really love the way this came out. So I'll walk around the back of the house now, and you can see the scaffolding that I built to put the roof on. I can tear that down now. But let me walk down through here. This was a major project. It was a lot of work, but I love the way that it came out. And I'm really looking forward to getting it finished and being able to move into it so I can make it my home. I will also turn around here so you can see the hitch end of the house, because you can really see all the different materials and colors and paints and stains, and I really like that. So there it is. That's the exterior of my tiny house. Time to get started on the inside. So, yeah, it was beautiful. It's been sold now. If I later move into another place and I build a house, the house that I won't build is still relatively small. But then I think that it would be fun to also put a tiny house, perhaps one that's not on a trailer, but I've seen like tiny houses that are actually on a foundation. And I think it would be fun if you've got a relatively small main house anyway. But if you want to have people come over and visit, or you don't have extended guests, to have a tiny house like that, that's like in the backyard, also on the property, so that there's a place where the guest can stay and sleep and also have some privacy and be away from the main house if it's going to be an extended stay kind of thing. So I think I would put a relatively small house on property and then put a tiny house like as a guest house. I think that would be fun. Yeah, thank you. That was all so much work that I had to hand cut every one of those cedar shingles on the roof. It's a 100% custom cedar shingle roof. And then I didn't have to individually cut all the shingles on the side of the house, but they were individually stained and hung. Thank you. Sable says that tiny house is adorable. I wouldn't mind living in that one. There's charm in it. There's charm in it. Pennsic, yeah, Pennsic is the big one. I've never been to Pennsic. I've been to Gulf Wars. We went to Gulf Wars a lot. Knew some people in the SCA. They were a fun time, but I'm old and out of shape. I hear Pennsic is fantastic, though. I hear Pennsic is fantastic. One of my favorite events is called Gaddalop, and it's down at Fort Gaines. So you're inside the fort. We used to stay inside one of the bastions of the fort. We had stained glass windows that we made that were made before I was part of it, but that the group had made. And so the stained glass windows would go up inside the gun ports of the fort at Fort Gaines. It's not a medieval castle, but we're here in the United States, so you can only get so far. So like a Civil War era fort for Fort Gaines. Decked out on the inside with stained glass windows in the gun ports and things like that. It was a lot of fun. All right. Well, I have got things to do. I am trying to attack. This was fun. I enjoyed hanging out with everybody and branching out a little bit from just RPGs. So it's a fun discussion. That does give me some inspiration to go and dig back in. I'm still trying to sort a lot of videos, but dig back in and then to complete those videos about how I finished the house, because all of that stuff is still on my hard drive. But it also gives me some motivation to get the house cleaned up so that I can shoot a walkthrough video for everybody. All right. Yes, interesting and low-key stream. Exactly. RPG adjacent, because you got to make your, if you're going to play board games, you got to have a house to play the board games in. All right. I got stuff to do. So what is today? Today is Thursday. Okay. Yeah. And plus I got like to cut grass. I got grass to cut. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Later, be creative, be constructive, and grind on, everybody. Later.